welcome to my channel. My name is Kelly Gifford and I am a personal trainer, online nutrition coach. I do the fitness thing, I do the nutrition thing. I also love the whole spirituality mindset stuff. So this is what my channel is about. I am very new to the YouTube space. I have always loved YouTube. I've been watching it since I was like 10 years old. Don't ask me who let me on the internet at that age. I asked my Instagram followers on my stories some questions regarding what they like with YouTube, what they use it for, and what types of videos they prefer, especially regarding the types of videos that I am looking to produce, aka fitness stuff, workouts, nutrition, all that. When it comes to workout videos, they like to see the commentary and the breakdown of the workout as opposed to just seeing the workout with some music in the background, which I thought was perfect because I love to talk, especially about fitness. Like I said, I am a personal trainer. I've been training people in person since 2017. And over the years, I have really developed my skills in exercise form, movement. A comment that I get quite often from my clients is just how much attention to detail I give when explaining an exercise or when I am correcting somebody's form. Form is something that is and has become really, really important to me in my training and of course with my clients. When I first started working out over 7 years ago, and especially when I started to lift weights, I did not really understand movement to the same degree that I do right now. I think that my results suffered a lot because of that. I developed a lot of aches and pains. I wasn't targeting the muscles that I was trying to target as effectively as I could have been, or I think that I just didn't see the results that I could have over those years that I wasn't paying as much attention to form and just didn't understand movement to the same degree. So now I'm really passionate about teaching people how to move properly, not only for the sake of their results, but also just to keep their body really healthy. I did acquire some injuries over the years. Nothing too major, thank goodness. I've never had to have any surgery or anything, but it did get in the way of my training for quite some time and just basically had to start over completely. About 3 years ago, I really started to take my form and my movement seriously and had to drastically decrease the weights that I was using in the gym. I had to leave my ego at the door. I had built my strength up quite high. I remember squatting with over 200 pounds on my back. I was deadlifting more than double my body weight. I basically had to go back to the bar and reteach myself how to move properly and actually use the muscles I was trying to target. For a really, really long time, I was trying to grow my glutes. Duh.
Who doesn't like a big juicy booty?
Still don't have one, but it's come a long way. I was cursed with the pancake booty, and I struggled for a really, really long time to grow my glutes. I didn't even know what it felt like to activate my glutes. I just assumed that because I was doing all of the right exercises, squats, deadlifts, hip thrusts, lateral band walks and stuff, that my glutes were working. But I didn't understand why they weren't growing. Turns out that because I didn't understand movement all that well, I had developed a lot of movement compensations, aka I was using other muscles to do the job of the glutes. Mostly my lower back. I actually developed quite a thick waist because of it. My lower back muscles were
so huge and so developed
because I was using them for basically everything. I didn't have a very strong core. My glutes were also super, super weak. So my lower back did everything. I wanted to start off by talking a little bit more about my current goals, what I do for working out, and then I will get into the actual workout and explain that to you guys. At this point in my life, I have been working out for over 7 years, like I said, and although I'm always on the pursuit of growing the booty. I'm not too serious about changing my body at this point. I really feel happy and confident and comfortable in my body. I'm not trying to lose weight or get any leaner, and I'm really not that concerned with getting very strong or building lots of muscle at this point in my life. That might change down the road. Maybe I will get the spark back to try and pursue a really heavy muscle gaining phase, or want to really dive back into strength training for a period of time. Right now, I'm just working out to stay healthy and to stay fit, and because I enjoy it, and because I want my butt to continue to get bigger. So I have worked out much differently in the past than I do right now. I am working out 5 days per week on average. I recently bumped it up to 5. For a long time I was only doing 4. I am working from home now, and it's much easier for me to work out more frequently now because I work from home and I also have a home gym, which is what I'm in right now. I have been working out 5 days per week and doing full body workouts. Now that might come as a shock for a lot of people, or you might think that it doesn't make sense to train your body 5 days per week. And to be honest, in the past, I would have totally agreed. And I'm not even saying that this is the best way for you to work out for your goals or the best way for everybody to work out. It's just something that I've been enjoying doing for about a year now, and I'm really loving my workouts, honestly. I have played around with structuring them in different ways, trying to make sure that I am still getting adequate recovery in between my workouts, because of course, if I'm going to be working every single muscle group every single day, then recovery could become more of an issue. I recently have just decided to switch my full body workouts to alternating muscle groups. Every single workout, I do some upper body, some lower body, and some core. Within each of those categories, I do switch up the movements that I am doing to target different muscle groups, so that I'm not just targeting every single muscle group in the exact same way every single day. For example, for upper body movements, I alternate each day between push exercises and pull exercises. Push upper body exercises are going to mostly target the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps. Those are movements where you are pushing or pressing away from your body. So an overhead press or a bench press or a push-up, or even things for triceps like a tricep push down or a lateral raise. Pull exercise, on the contrary, are exercises where you are pulling towards your body, and those ones are going to target more of the muscles of your upper back, so your lats, your rhomboids, and your mid to lower traps, as well as your biceps. For lower body, I also try to alternate day by day just to make sure that I am recovering properly. There are 2 main categories when it comes to lower body movements. There are knee dominant movements and hip dominant movements. Within those categories, there are exercises that are going to target the muscles slightly differently and to slightly different degrees, as well as exercises that are going to tax the body a little bit more than others. I try to put the really hard, heavy exercises that are going to make me sore and are going to require more recovery time all together on certain days, and then in between those days, more exercises that are not going to leave me sore, that aren't necessarily going to interfere with my recovery, and are more meant just to give me a burn. These are more of the exercises that use bands typically. I just kind of know my body very well at this point. I know what exercises tend to make me very fatigued, tend to leave me very sore, so I like to put those on certain days, and then the exercises that I know are not going to make me sore and that don't really work my body that hard, I will put on the days in between. As far as core exercises go, I exclusively stick to what's called core stability movements. Your traditional ab exercises like crunches and sit-ups and Russian twists and hanging leg raises, I have done all of those in the past, and if you do those movements, that is totally okay. If you feel your abs working and you enjoy doing them like that, that is totally fine. My personal preference is to stick primarily to core stability movements, and this is why. First of all, when you are doing a lot of those other movements that are taking your spine through a range of motion, you are technically contracting the abs in that those muscles are going to be shortening and contracting, but you're not actually using them for their primary function. The muscles of our core are actually there to stabilize our spine and prevent our trunk from going through movement. This is especially important when you are training heavy and hard and you are doing lots of compound exercises like squats and deadlifts and presses and pulls. When you have really strong core stability, then the muscles of your limbs are actually going to be able to work harder and you're going to get stronger over time. If you have a very weak and unstable core, then that is going to become your limiting factor at times, because your body is basically going to put the brakes on when your spine is starting to move a lot and it doesn't feel safe or stable. Of course, we have our spinal cord that runs along our spine, so it is very important to keep that safe. I think that it just makes a lot more sense to focus core training around core stability for the sake of our spine, as well as because it carries over into other exercises very, very well. It teaches you proper form. It gives you a really great understanding of your body and how it moves and how to keep it stable. It increases your body awareness, and it will make you stronger in basically everything over time. It will also help prevent back injuries. All of my workouts per week are in a circuit style right now. I have been liking doing circuit style workouts just because they are very time efficient and fun, to be honest. I have always liked to pair exercises at least in groups of 2. For a very long time, I would do supersets and just alternate between 2 exercises at a time. As of about a year ago, I switched to doing full body circuit workouts, and that is because I acquired an injury to my hip on the leg press for the second time in my life. And for a while, I actually couldn't do very much lower body exercises. This happened in the summer of 2019. I was only able to do hip thrusts and use the air bike for lower body exercises. And then the rest of my training was basically limited to core work and upper body. So I just basically started switching up my workouts and doing full body circuits, where I would do some upper body movements, some core, and then throw in some bike sprints on the air bike, and then of course doing hip thrusts because 1, that's all I could do, and 2, booty. I just really enjoyed doing my workouts that way, and I basically just kept it all of this time. Who knows if I'm gonna switch it up anytime soon. However, I do full body workouts right now, and I do them in a circuit style. I always pick 5 exercises and I do them in a circuit for 4 rounds. As far as repetitions go, I stick anywhere between 8 to 20 plus repetitions depending on the exercise. For more of my compound movements, aka the exercises that are going to target a lot of different muscle groups and work multiple joints at once, I will typically stick to the 8 to 12, maybe up to 15 rep range. And then for other exercises that are more accessory movements or isolation movements, I will go upwards of 20 to 30 reps. I'm not overly concerned with lifting really heavy. Like I said, I don't really care about gaining strength or gaining a lot of muscle right now. So the intensity of my workouts, I do have a pretty good understanding of what it feels like to be close to failure, what it feels like to push my body. I have a lot of training experience under my belt at this point, so I basically can feel out when I am fatiguing, I can feel when I'm getting close to failure, I can feel when my form is starting to slip. I tend to work out and leave about 1 to 3 repetitions left in the tank. That is called RIR, or repetitions in reserve, It's basically a way of gauging your intensity within your workouts, and it is a system that I use when I am creating training programs for my clients. I basically just stop my set when I feel like I could only do 1 to 3 more good reps. Try to get stronger occasionally. If I can add an extra rep, I will. If I can add in more weight, I will. However, I'm not as regimented with that as I used to be when I was a little bit more strict with my goals. Now that I have talked your head off for probably going on 10 minutes, let's get into the workout. This is a workout that I did at home. However, you can obviously do this workout in a gym setting if you work out at a gym. And if you are doing this at home and you don't have some of the equipment, then you might be able to find some modifications for this exercise online, or I will try to provide some examples of modifications as well. And maybe you could even get creative with some stuff around your house. So like I said, I like to pick 5 exercises for my full body workouts, and I perform them back to back in a circuit for 4 rounds. I picked 2 lower body exercises, 2 upper body exercises, and 1 core exercise for this workout. The first exercise was a lower body exercise called a single leg hip thrust. This exercise is targeting the muscles of the glutes, mainly with a little bit of hamstrings. I would put this exercise under the category of a hip hinge, aka it is mostly moving from the hips and not from the knees. I used a barbell for this exercise. However, if you do not have a barbell, or especially if you don't have a short barbell, because the one that I have is a 25-pound shorter barbell, if you're using one of the longer 45-pound barbells, that can be really hard to balance on your lap. So if you don't have a good enough barbell or any barbell available, you can totally use dumbbells. I am using a hip thruster for this exercise. However, I know not many people have this piece of equipment available to them, so I would just recommend using a standard workout bench if you have that available. If you don't, you can also try using a chair or a plyo box or a couch, an ottoman. The main thing is, if it is too high, it is going to feel really uncomfortable and the angles are going to be really off. You should be hinging from right underneath your shoulder blades on the bench, so not too high up on your upper back or too low. Find the space right underneath your shoulder blade, and that's where the bench or whatever you're using should sit. If you are new to this exercise, I definitely recommend just starting with body weight and add weight later on once you're able to get at least 10 to 12 good reps and you're feeling your glutes working with just your body weight. If this exercise doesn't feel right and you feel really weak or unstable, then I would recommend starting this exercise on the ground and doing a single leg glute bridge instead. I always choose to start with my weaker leg, which for me is my left. So I like to center the weight over that leg. It just helps me stay more balanced if more of the weight is on the side that I am working. So for the barbell, I just lopsided it over towards my left leg first and then slided it over towards my right side when I was ready to work that leg. If you are using a dumbbell, then you can just choose to put it on that side of your lap and then put it onto the other side of your lap when you're ready to go with that leg. I always start with my feet together. That way, when I go and I take one foot off the ground, I don't feel like I lose my balance because my center of gravity is already in the middle. Some things to watch out for when you are performing this exercise. Number 1 is to watch your pelvic position and your lower back. I like to maintain a tucked pelvis, or what's called posterior pelvic tilt, throughout the entire exercise, even when I am coming down into the movement. This just helps me feel my glutes a little bit better. If I do end up tilting my pelvis to the front at any degree, then I just feel my glutes turn off and my lower back tends to take over. So if I can maintain more of a tucked pelvis, I can feel my abs working more as well as my glutes. Another thing that comes into spine position is the rib cage. So you want to look out for if the rib cage is starting to flare up, which is going to cause a bit of an arch in your lower back anyways. So you want to think about getting the ribs down, feeling a little bit of a crunch through here and keeping those abs on. If your abs are working, your glutes are actually going to work much better as well. As your hips come down into the movement, just be careful that you're not keeping your chest up the entire time. Your chest and your hips should move down and up together, not just the hips moving and your chest staying stable. If you're feeling this exercise a lot in your hamstrings without a lot of glutes firing, then that one could mean that you're going too heavy, or two, your feet might be a little bit too far forward. So you can experiment with your foot placement and try bringing your feet closer towards your butt. If you are feeling it a lot in your quads or your thighs, however, your feet are too close towards your bum and therefore you should bring them a little bit further out and away from you. I know for a lot of glute exercises, it is so common to say you want to push through your heels, and although doing that will make you feel your glutes, I think that the glutes and your entire body is actually going to function much more optimally if you are pressing through your entire foot. I like to use the tripod foot, which is funny because I have my camera on a tripod right now, but essentially, if this was my foot, which it's obviously not,
My hand.
you want to think about having 3 points of contact on the floor at all times. The base of your big toe, which would be that space right underneath your big toe, the base of your pinky toe, which is the space right underneath your pinky, and then your heel. So you have this tripod here, and you want to push through that the entire time without losing contact on any of those 3 points, and the center of your weight should be right in the arch of your foot or the center of your foot. Immediately following the single leg hip thrust, I did my second lower body exercise, which is more of an accessory movement or an isolation movement. This is a 2-level mini band hip abduction. The target muscles are, of course, the glutes, especially the glute medius and the glute minimus, aka your side butt. For this exercise, all you will need is 1 to 2 mini bands, as well as your chair / bench / couch / ottoman. The first band is going to go immediately above your knees. You want to be careful not to put it too high up on your thighs because that will make it too easy, so don't cheat, keep it close to your knees. And if that's not enough weight, then you can also add a second band. I usually put it right below my knees. Sometimes I will move it a little bit further down and put it around the middle of my shins. Since this is a 2-level exercise, there are 2 different positions that I am going to be performing reps in. The first position is just seated on the floor, and the second position is with my hips lifted off the floor, which is kind of like a mid to low hip thrust position. For this exercise, I highly recommend making sure that your feet are staying parallel and your toes are pointed straight forward the entire time, like you're on skis. It's very common to have your toes want to turn out or your feet want to turn out during this exercise because you are going to be pushing the knees out and the feet want to turn out with that. You might still feel your glutes working if your feet do turn out. However, I know for myself, and I know for a lot of other people that I have trained, that when the feet do externally rotate, it actually makes the glutes work less. When you're already starting from an externally rotated position, it actually puts a muscle called your TFL, or your tensor fascia latae. Yes, that is actually the name of the muscle. I've had clients question me on this before. A muscle on the front / side of your hips that's mostly categorized as a hip flexor. It puts that muscle into a better position to contract. AKA, if your glutes are already weak, or your glutes are really stubborn, and you have tight hip flexors, which pretty much everybody does, then those muscles are going to take over and your glutes are not going to be getting any of the work. Make sure that you have full range of motion and that you are controlling it the entire time. If you are going too fast, then you're basically just relying on the momentum of the elastic bands and you're not actually going to be targeting your muscles that much. Some things to look out for. Number 1 is the toes turning out for reasons I just explained. 2 would be having your toes lifting off the ground or rolling onto the outsides of your feet. Just like with the single leg hip thrust, I like to use that tripod foot. So think about pushing those 3 points of contact in the ground at all times. And just like with any exercise, you want to make sure that you are keeping a stable core. So your core should be tight, your ribs should be down, pelvis is tucked underneath a little bit, and you are not letting your spine arch or your hips drop down and up and sway side to side. The third exercise of this workout, a bent over dumbbell row, an upper body exercise, and the target muscle groups for this movement are the lats, the rhomboids, the mid to lower traps, and your biceps. A pulling exercise because you are really pulling the weights up towards you. For this movement, you're gonna start in what's called a hip hinge. Now, if you have very poor core strength or very minimal body awareness, if you're really lacking in hip mobility or you're prone to back problems, then this is probably not the exercise variation for you right now. It's really, really important, just like with any exercise, that you are keeping your back flat and your ribs down and that you're stable in that position. You should feel quite a deep stretch in the back of your hamstrings if you have hinged from the hips properly. You want to get your torso roughly parallel with the floor. However, if your mobility does not allow you to do that, it's okay to be a little bit more inclined. Just know that that angle is just going to change the muscles that are working very, very slightly. Some things to watch out for on the row. Number one would be the shoulders shrugging up into the ears. So this is a good sign that you're using too heavy of weight and your upper traps are having to kick on and take over the movement. Lower the weight and practice keeping them down. Another mistake with this one is pulling directly in a straight line, so pulling up and down completely straight. I like to think of this as a slight diagonal line, so the weight moves up and back, down and forward, up and back, down and forward, and that way you are keeping good alignment with your wrist and your elbow. Another mistake that I see very commonly with any row variation is just limiting the range of motion, especially at the bottom. I like to get a very deep stretch. Think about reaching for the floor at the very, very bottom and creating space between both of your shoulder blades, letting them come apart, and you'll feel a really deep stretch through your upper back, which actually feels really nice. And lastly, one of the biggest mistakes that I see with a row is just improper shoulder movement, and this is usually just coming down to a lack of body awareness. So this can easily just be fixed by paying attention to it and just making sure that you are limiting your range of motion so that you aren't actually getting yourself to the point where your shoulders go into an unhealthy position. Basically, what you want to look out for is the shoulders dumping forward. So if you're pulling so far back that your shoulder starts to dump forward, then first, your elbows probably just went too far back, so you don't need to go that far. And second of all, just really think about pulling your shoulders back and opening up through your chest. The fourth exercise, a face pull. I would consider this more of an accessory movement, however, it is still a pull. It is going to be working slightly different muscles to our other pulling movements like pull downs, pull-ups, and rows. The target muscle groups are instead going to be more of the rear head of the deltoids and your rhomboids, as well as your biceps. I am just using bands and a door frame attachment that I got on Amazon. However, if you were doing this at a gym, I would highly recommend just doing this with a cable machine, and you can use either two single hand attachments or use the rope attachment for this. You want to adjust the cable to at least chest height when you are seated, or in whatever position you're going to be pulling from. Just make sure that the cables or bands are approximately straight across from your chest. Because this is more of an accessory or an isolation movement, I think it's much more important to go light and focus on that mind to muscle connection. The main difference with this compared to a regular row is the elbow position. So rather than thinking about pulling your elbows back, you want to think about pulling the backs of your hands back behind you. So not elbows back, but backs of your hands back. Trying to keep your wrist really stiff and not letting it bend like this throughout the movement. You are also going to be pulling much higher up on your body. So for a traditional row, you would be pulling more towards your chest or in between your chest and your belly button. And for this exercise, you're going to be pulling up more towards your forehead, which is why it's called a face pull. Some things to watch out for, of course, is the shoulders shrugging up. If they are shrugging up, that could just mean that you're going too heavy. You don't want to let your elbows or your hands drop too low. Your hands and your elbows should be roughly shoulder height throughout the entire movement, so try not to let them drop too low. Just like with anything, we want to keep our core stable, so a mistake here would be as you pull, letting your rib cage flare up and arching at the lower back. Another common mistake is regards to the head position, so poking your head forward as you are going through the movement. This is going to cause a lot of strain and stress on your neck. So some cues that I like to use is to tuck the chin, pull the back of your neck back so that your head is aligned over your rib cage, and then think about reaching the crown of your head up towards the ceiling, as if there's a string on the top of your head pulling you up. The last and final movement of my workout was a core exercise, two-legged dead bug. The target muscles are going to be your rectus abdominis, your external obliques, and other inner core muscles. I would categorize this as an anti-extension core stability movement. Anti-extension means that you are using the muscles of your core to prevent your spine from going into extension or preventing it from arching. If you are new to core stability training, I highly recommend mastering the traditional single leg dead bug first, which I will show right here. If you're having a hard time feeling your core or you're noticing that your lower back is arching a lot throughout this exercise, you can modify it by just bending your knees more or by not bringing your feet quite as low. Having your knees more bent is going to shorten the lever length, and when your knees are more straight, it's going to lengthen the lever length, which is going to make it harder. Even though I like to keep my legs more straight at this point because I have a strong core, I do like to maintain a soft bend in my knees throughout the entire movement. I find when I lock them out, it actually activates my quads, which in turn activates my hip flexors, and then I just don't feel like my abs are working quite as hard because the hip flexors and the core muscles kind of contradict each other in some way, and I just prefer to keep my knees soft because I feel like my core muscles have to work harder. A really great cue for this exercise is to reach with the arms, so not just getting lazy and holding your arms there, but actively pushing them forward and reaching as far as you can, creating space between your shoulder blades. This is going to activate muscles right here called your serratus anterior, and it's also going to make it much easier for you to keep your ribs down, which in turn is going to make your abs work way more. Breathing on this one is going to be a very slow and full exhale as you are lowering your feet down towards the ground and then taking a big belly breath on the way up. Some things to watch out for on this exercise. Number one, of course, is the lower back arching off the ground. It's super
important
that you keep your lower back flat on the ground. If it is arching, you are not even working the abs at all. Another common mistake that I see on this exercise is letting the head tilt back. If you are new to core stability or you're lacking mobility through your hips, through your knees, through your spine in general, then your cervical spine will likely start to extend, which is going to put you into this really awkward head position. When your head is in this position, it's really hard to breathe. So I highly recommend trying to keep your chin tucked and pressing the back of your neck towards the floor. If you're having a really hard time with this, then I recommend getting something to put underneath your head to elevate it slightly, a pillow or a mat, or even just a bundled up sweater or towel. And the last and final mistake to make sure that you don't do during the core exercise is not breathing. It's actually super common to stop breathing when you are working your core muscles because it's really hard to get air in when you are contracting these muscles really tight, especially if you're more weak in this area. However, it's obviously
super important
to be able to activate your core and breathe at the same time. If you're only able to do one at a time, you're not going to have very great carryover from your core exercises into other day-to-day activities and also your other movements inside the gym when you are going to need to breathe, like when you're doing a heavy squat. And that is my workout for you guys. I hope you learned something new. I hope that you enjoyed my commentary. I hope that you are excited to try it or try at least one or two of the exercises that I put in here. If you enjoyed this video, if you got value from it, oh my goodness, I would so appreciate it if you liked it. If you gave it a little comment, let me know what you thought.
Let me know if you love me or not.
If you are enjoying my content so far, I would love you to death. Not really death, like love you to life if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I so look forward to making more videos. This is so fun for me, and I will talk to you guys very soon.